2. Are we working? Let's see, let's zoom in to our usual. Zoom in. Oh, we're on the right screen for once. Wow, cool. Welcome. How's everybody doing? Let's see here. Just having some fun, jamming as usual. Just said hi to everybody. Welcome. My name is John Skippy Limcool. This is a live stream event on YouTube sponsored by, I love this, so I can push. So Big E, I don't know if he's here yet. Big E, are you here? He got me this for Christmas. It's the Stream Deck, and it is so cool. Can you guys see? It's got graphics. It's got texts. So I can like set up things. I can push a button and a banner will pop open. So here's the banner for today. I can tease you guys with what's going to be coming in the future. Ha ha ha. That's all you get to see. I can say, come to my website. And here's my website. And make sure you also check out the Facebook page right here if you wish. All done by button pushes. I don't have to like be looking all over the place for screens and stuff. So it's really awesome. Anyway, I gotta stop. I got all these video feeds playing. So pause that. Let's go over here. And this needs to be refreshed, I think. I hope you all are doing good. There's so much really cool stuff going on. It's just pretty amazing. Actually beyond amazing. So I'm going to show you a couple synthesizers that are a single purchase from Yuhi. Repro is a retro analog modeled series. It came originally with the Repro 1, which I showed in the past. But it now also comes with Repro 5. Which is like a really nice analog polyphonic synthesizer. So you have a mono synthesizer, and there's benefits to the mono synthesizer that are not on the polyphonic synthesizer, and vice versa. So we're going to look at those. Everybody's saying hello on the live chat. That's awesome. It's good to see a lot of you guys here. Lots of Germany here. Yes. Oh, okay. So there's that to talk about. There's 2 customer questions I've gotten this week that I thought would be good to answer. One of them's kind of tricky and involved, so it'll be fun. And that question is, how would you take an Omnisphere patch where the modulation wheel is doing one thing and reverse what it's doing? And in some cases, that's not too difficult. And in some cases, it would be close to brain surgery, because if there's like, I don't know, 12 things assigned that the module is doing, you have to reverse all 12 of those. And so it gets a little involved. So we're going to look at that. We're also going to look at, and we'll use Repro for doing this. Some of you guys are getting more into sampling. And some of you are still just starting out with the sampling concept and aren't familiar with some of the basics of setting up, let's say, 3 samples that are for the same sound. How do you make it so that they are on different notes? And what do you do to make it play between the notes? So we're going to look at how to record samples and then how to map them in BASIC, both probably in ESX24 and in Kontakt 5 to show you both of those. Yeah, the CPU is a little heavy for Repro because of what it is doing. It's trying to emulate analog characteristics, and that does take computer processing. Well, there's a couple things we'll look at that are kind of cool with Repro 5. They didn't do it for Repro 1 since it's one note, but if you noticed, here's Repro 5, and then here is Repro 1. We will look at these first. So this is the monophonic synthesizer, and Repro 5 is the polyphonic. And because it's polyphonic, it has a high quality button. They both have high quality, right? Here is high quality here. So if you hit high quality, it goes to playing in high quality, or CPU saver as they call it. Over here, there is a M core, which is really interesting. You can have it playing something that's, this is just a single note thing, so. But if you hit multi-core, it will spread it out over multiple cores and average it out. So it's more efficient. So we'll look at a whole lot of stuff with what you can do with these sound-wise. They're interesting because they're modeling after sequential circuits type synthesizers. This modulation area is a little bit confusing to understand, so we'll look at that. What makes these unique and special is the sound. So I'm going to go over here. I'm working on a library. Oh. Yeah, thank you. And we're just going to use the init patch. I'm not showing patches from the library yet. We'll show those at another time, probably soon, because I'm working on getting this library out very soon. What I'm doing is there's some holes in the voicing that need to be filled as soon as possible. Like if you need dark basses for all the songs you hear on the radio, there's not a lot of choices. It's the typical symptom with most synthesizers that come out. People program it to the max. It's doing all sorts of great things, but the usable, simple, basic things that you need to write songs with are not there. They're assuming you know how to make them. And a lot of you guys don't know how to make them, or you don't have the time to make them because you just want to just get the song idea out. So I'm filling in those holes and then making some plug and guru type patches. So it does all sorts of things. But I don't want to show those yet. We'll show those in the not too distant future. Here is Repro 1. This is the monophonic, and my own init patch is just one oscillator instead of two oscillators up, and I have everything set to work. And you can go over here. I believe it's there is you have keys that look like this, and then the Repro 5, they look like actual polyphonic keys. The layout is this. Let me check chat before we start diving into this, just to make sure we are everybody's good. I'm waiting for Omni upgrade. Oh, okay, good for you. That will be coming at some point, I'm sure. So here we go. We're looking at Repro 1. This is an analog synthesizer. It's two oscillators, and so oscillator A and B, you have a mixer. You change waveforms here, and you can mix them. So you could actually have a square, a triangle, and a saw playing at one time. Okay. If you want detune, you should know that when you move, it goes by plus or minus 20s. And even minus 20 is too much. The shift key is important in both this and Repro 5 because the shift key allows you to change it to where you're changing by single parameters, single increments. Okay. The filter has a very nice natural characteristic. It can self-oscillate, and if you bring this to right here at 75, and if you turn these down, you can actually have self-oscillation. And if you set this to 8, I believe we can. So there's a sine wave. There's no sine wave shown over here, but by setting resonance and setting your keyboard amount to 75, setting your resonance high enough, and the cutoff to 18, or I believe 8. You have a sine wave. And because it's in the filter, that means the filter envelope, you can get all sorts of sticky sine waves. Spacey sine waves. Add some noise. Okay. So the sine wave is very flexible in that regard. You can make really nice kind of basses like that. Or if you have the resonance up high, you get all sorts of like high school synth-based mini Moog experiments that you... And if you bring this just below resonance, it's really nice. So the reason that this is getting a lot of accolades is just because of how nice this filter to the oscillators, getting envelopes that are that snappy. It's all really nice stuff. There's glide. Normal means it glides every time, no matter where you play. Auto is like what used to be called fingered, where if you play one note, you don't hold that down and you play a new note, it doesn't glide. As soon as you hold one note and go to the other note, you can do all that kind of stuff with it. It has some interesting modes here. It has a retrigger mode, so versus the legato mode. It's got a repeat, which is based on the clock. And it also has a drone, where it just plays and there's no note off. So you can go like this and go over here to your modulation sources and start playing with these. You can get a weird space land really easy. Go to the effects section, turn on reverb, turn on the delays, set it to be ping-ponging with a little bit of pitch modulation, and you're in Drone City. So if this kind of sounds are your thing, it's there. You can do it. So there's things like that. Let's go presets back to the init. The other nice thing with this is the arpeggiator, and it's a little bit tricky to understand, but once you understand how it works, it's great. The default is LFO, and I would suggest changing that to clock for the most part. You don't have to worry about this stuff. Right here is where you choose whether it's playing or else if you want to record. And if you set to record, all you do is play notes. And then set it back to play, and then change your clock to say 6. Turn on latch, and that should be latching it. Let's see, let's go to the sequencer page and see. Oh, it's waiting for the key on. So there. So then you can play with parameters. And you hear all that sticky quality to it. It takes a lot of work to get that out. Other things on the effects page that are great, this sonic conditioner is great to bring in up the volume, get a little additional transient shapes. Jaws is a really cool wave folder. You can use it for subtle things like just a little bit of noise. There's all sorts of different variations. The bias. There's stereo controls for the mod. We can just a little bit of stuff, get a little noise in it. The delay, like I showed earlier, has some really nice features because you have different variations. And what this is doing, these timing variations is divisions of the, like the 2/3, or the, when it sets to swing, that sets it to like a triplet feel. So it's nice to have those to just switch to them really quick. Echo is just mono on both sides, the same delays. This is back and forth. There's also, that's really strange. It should be set, it's kind of strange that the latch should be the same on both, but that must be like a re-trigger of it. If you wanted to sustain forever, you'd go over here and work with it here. So this delay has a couple tricks up its sleeve as well. You have color. Here, let's turn off Jaws because that's dirtying it up, right? So there's clean, bright, and then dark. So it has filtering that way instead of there being a filter knob. It also has right here the ability to have super long sync, super long unsynced, and then chorus. So by setting to chorus, this becomes a really short delay. Bring down feedback if you don't want, if you want weird experimental stuff. You can get all sorts of stuff with that. And then here's your strength of the modulation. So you can get some really nice stereo chorus from the delay, because the delay with a little, this modulation is also great if you set this to be really long and synced, like eighth notes. There's, let's say, quarter notes, which would be like 4. Does a value of 1 equals a clock, so set to 4. Let's do this. Here's echo without any modulation. Listen to the delays. Now I'm going to bring this up. It puts like a chorusing on the delay taps, which is just awesome. Really great sound. Now this right here is able to be both a frequency bank of resonators. We set to here. Or just EQ. So it's two different vibes. If you want more retro, you'd use just the resonant frequencies to do banding that way. Where you have a when it's set it to EQ, it's a low EQ, mid EQ, high EQ. When it's here, it's 3 different like parametric EQs you can sweep through the ranges. Okay. Let's see, let's turn that back off. Then there's drenched. With just a really nice reverb. You have tone, darker, or here it's taking out the low frequency, so it goes low pass filter or high pass filter like a lot of effects do now these days. And then finally the sonic conditioner, which we're using to, here's without it. Just makes this nice presence. Now these can be changed the order just by clicking and dragging. So if you want to have the, let's say we want the reverb, which we want the delay at the very last step. You hear the results. The graphics don't change. So don't expect these. I think there was talk about at some point they were going to change these graphics, but they don't change at this point. And there's a bypass. So that's just a synth sound. So the effects are a very nice choice of complements to go along with this sound and this synth. So it's really great. Having these parameters in the arpeggiator, then you get to the modulation, which gets a little bit tricky to understand, but let's talk about it for a minute. You have the ability to set up, as you see, direct, which means it's just an intensity knob to bring it up, or it doesn't have any intensity until you move the mod wheel. Also worth noting, on the keys page, you have what they call over here 2 perform buttons. It seems to run. Oh, are we getting okay video? You guys are seeing, right? I'm getting a notice that the resolution is not that high on the video, but I see healthy for there. Everybody's doing good, right? You guys are soaking it up. Good. Okay, everybody's soaking it up. Good. Just gotta check. So the modulation, and I was going to show you also on the Repro 5, the difference being that they now call this a matrix, and it's pretty much the same as here, just they call it perform over here. And it's where you have a modulation source. And if you click here, you can drag and highlight what you want it to control. So if I want the filter, if I want modulation wheel to go to the envelope intensity, so that way, and I want it to be down. Oh, I'm playing the wrong synth. It's like, wait, that sounds really nice. So I'm gonna have this be really snappy. When I bring down the filter envelope amount, it just becomes a filter with no shape. So it would rest at whatever I set this at. As I bring this. So there's that way of clicking and dragging to things here. There's also where you can right click, and like Omnisphere, this is one of those really wonderful things, is it gives you access. And if you have the effects turned on, you have access then to right clicking, and those effects that are turned on, you could go to drench and have it be the dry mix. So now 100% reverb. One of the saddest things to me about both of these instruments is that there are only 2 matrix slots. You have the ability, because of this list of all of these parameters, and you can only change 2 of them, which is really sad. So one thing I hope they do in an update is give you like 4 more pages, so you can have more access to changing more parameters in the sound in real time. It would be really nice to do that. In some cases, you need to use this like for an LFO control. So you have to go over here and say LFO to be controlling something. So that takes away one of your 2 slots to do real-time like modulation wheel stuff. So that's one of the, if there was any beyond the CPU usage on the Polyphonic Pro 5, just because of how many, this would be my sore spot, is that I wish that there was more than 2 modulation sources. And this is confusing. I'll tell you, it's a little bit confusing, and it's more like you have to experiment a little bit to get it to like, so this should be, let's see, let's turn off our effects that we're not doing. If I want to have this LFO go to pitch, you have to say direct. Oh, this is for filter. There's for PWM. So you choose what you want it to do. If you want it to go to oscillator A's frequency, then right here you choose either wheel, and now it doesn't play wheel. And there's no intensity amount. It's just, so if you want it to be less than that intense, you'd have to go over here and use one of your 2 performance slots. So that's, now if you set to here and you say direct, and see, that means this is now doing it all the time. And you can do this really nice stuff if you set this to be the square. You can set this to be PWM, so oscillator A, PWM. So you can get one oscillator with PWM. This was kind of the, I have one oscillator, I want it to sound slightly detuned, like I'm using two oscillators. PWM, by changing the pulse width, way back in the day, they learned that that could change the phase, and it made this nice, pleasant detuning effect. Now, if I want this to be involved, I could say direct. And now it's bringing oscillator B into A. And then if we wanted to have this controlling here's where you get into your experimental stuff. Speaking of experimental, I should also point out the tweaks page is really important. Because, let's get on the tweaks page, you have basically the interface, like you took the lid off your synthesizer, and where it has checkboxes, you have the ability to change things. The micro tuning, they have all sorts of alternative tunings you can use. Here, the oscillator, there's 3 different oscillator types, personality-wise. The envelopes even have different shapes that can be applied to the envelopes, which is really useful. If you want to get the LFO, here's a good important one. Say I want this LFO to control filter. Let's turn everything else off. And I want it to be doing a pulse. And to clock to, let's say rate at clock. Okay, that's backwards. If you're trying to do pulsy, dancey kind of sounds, it's an inverted pulse. So we need to invert it the other way. If you go to the tweaks page, right here, you can click invert, and it changes like the circuits. You've popped out the what are those called? Someone will have to tell me, I can't remember the name of that off the top of my head, but there's all sorts of circuit breakers that you put in. I use these for this remote control for this car I have. If you want it to work this way or that way. By doing that, it's now inverted the pulse. If you don't go to the tweaks page and do the invert, you have that. So the tweaks page is very important in a lot of cases for that type of ability. A lot of this stuff is the same. There's a really weird thing where my mouse grows. That's pretty funny. So the tweak page is important. And so a lot of the stuff we're going to see here translates over to the Repro 5. Let me do this. I'll play through some of the factory patches really quick just to give you a flavor of everything that is going on in it. There's basses. Now, this is not wavetable. There is no unison. I believe they can do a, I couldn't remember. I think there's a unison if you set it up right on the Repro 5. But here it's... Again, these are great. They're pretty heavily programmed, so if you need simple basic basses, there's definitely some. I don't know, I just thought I'd gonna... Here's some good ones. So basses, leads. LFO tricks, or sequencing probably. Let's take a look real quick. I love to see how things are done. Yeah. That's without the sequencer. There's effects. Great stuff. Percussion. These chords are really interesting. Actually, I'll show you chords on the Repro 5 because there's an indexing thing that's really cool. There's some cool sounds in this, no doubt. Now also, the historic is, and it's worth pointing out on the Repro 5. Let's shift over to the Repro 5. When you get to the presets, to the historic, look at whose name pops up for the patches. The gentleman who's a friend of mine that I worked on the Wave Station with in the 90s and early 2000s, John Bowen was the gentleman that was the programmer for sequential circuits that made the patches for the Prophet 5. And if you call up number 32, a little bit brighter if you want. It's the factory patches from the Prophet 5. So that's pretty impressive. Now the chords in the Repro 5 this voice index is really cool. It's doing a shift of the note. It's really cool. But the sound quality is just great. There's keys. Nice basses. But there's no sequencer, just to know. The arpeggiator that's showing up on the Repro 1 is not here. So you would use the Repro 1 for your analog synth parts that want you to have a sequencing part. This is for chords, for other things that are polyphonic for the most part, but it can do monophonic as well. So personality-wise, you can set it to a unison. The unison button. So instead of one os, it's going to stack 6. Very nice. And a couple other things are really nice. On the effects page, they've gotten rid of the what was it called? I'm horrible with names. I think it's called the Jaws. Is no longer there. Instead, they have Velvet, and then they have a separate distortion right here. So if we go to this sound, Velvet's on. Here's without it. have all these different types of tape. Really nice saturation effects. Hear that noise? So it puts built-in like warm analog noise. Now the clipping. And corrode. Sample rate stuff. So the really nice sounding synths, what's nice is that by going to their website, it's a single purchase to get both synthesizers. So you get both a polyphonic and an analog synthesizer for your purchase. I'm going to be releasing a power pack soon for this. Just extra support patches. There's a lot of great patches in it. It's good stuff. So that's those two synthesizers. Let me check chat real quick and see if there are any questions from you guys that are watching and enjoying. If I buy Repro 5, it's going to be World War III. Oh, yeah. If you could check with family members before buying something like this, right? Martin, you're cracking me up. Okay. Thank you. That's nice. Cool. Yeah, you know, this is a sore spot. When you have the ability to have so many possible parameters to work with, and you only have two possible ones to change, it kind of, you got to prioritize instead of, you can't get into the subtle types of things. So that's where we are at with Repro. I'm going to now shift to Omnisphere. I'm going to take a look at a question that is similar in nature. Let's do this. I need to go over here to, let's say we want to use something from, let's just use Omniverse 1. So we have, let's start here. This is one oscillator, a handful of parameters. One parameter is set to wheel. Thank God. Sometimes simple programming is nice. So the question a customer sent me, and I chose not to answer it by typing back because it can get confusing. So I hope they're watching or that they watch this. But the question was, I have a patch that I like and I want the mod wheel to do the opposite. Snack break. Now there's a couple ways to do that. You can actually do it with a transformer, if you're familiar with something with logic or so forth, where you put something that interprets the controller information. Like right now we're, let's see if we say transpose floater. So if I bring this over here, if this is showing modulation 1, it's possible to put a transformer so that when I move this shows 127 and going all the way up, it becomes 1. So it inverts it. That way it automatically reverses that for every patch. So if you want to do that, that is an option. Let's do this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit because we don't need to have the, make this go away and up like that, right? So we can take a look at this. Now, in this case, if we look down this list, it's the wheel is set to filter cutoff. The intensity is really strong. The filter's dark. And then as I move the mod wheel, see that little white line right here? That shows where the wheel currently is at. Now, if I want to reverse that, that means my sound is going to start bright, right? And then you go over here to the invert button and you invert it. So now my mod wheel, so you're playing bright. Now in a case like this, this envelope is fairly strong. So I would want to go up here and right click on that and say modulate that with the wheel. And then right away you can click invert right here on this panel so that it does it. And then here's my strength. So I wanted to go all the way down to there. And then I'm going to go to cutoff. This is the fast way to see this without having to go into the, there's three ways. You can hit the little magnifying glass that shows you everything. You can click right here and it will show you a list of all the modulation sources. And in some cases, this gets to be a pretty big list. The other way is just go to the parameter that has a little blue mark on it. That means something is changing it in the engine besides just sitting there. And if you right click on this, you can say show modulation. It will show you a list of all the things assigned to it. Right here, it's just wheel. And here it is. Maybe I don't want the strength to be quite so strong on the wheel to the cutoff because I now am taking down the envelope. So now, but I want to be darker than that. There we go. So now I'm bright. You can do that. So by setting it up, the main process to do this is you need to look at your ranges here. And in some cases, with the mod wheel, you don't see that. See how you see on the LFO1, it's set to low and high? That's called bipolar. Here's the pole right in the middle, and it's going both up and down. It's positive and negative. The modulation wheel is not. It's unipolar. It's one direction. Your pitch bend is bipolar because its pitch goes up or down and its resting point is the pole right in the middle. So if you're looking at a patch, let's go scrolling. Luckily, you can sit right here and you can go to something like this. And as I change through the patches, it shows me all the modulation assignments for these different patches. Like, so for this one, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 things to reverse. This is where it gets to be a little bit like brain surgery. So you see how this goes up to here? So you just want to bring this up to here and then say invert. And this one here, see how it goes up to there? So go up to about right there and hit invert. Go to this one here if I want and see how it goes up to about right there. And then go here and hit invert. And resonance, it's the opposite. I was bringing down resonance as it was going up, but we're going to reverse that. So we go back down to here and we turn off invert. And now, it's the opposite. It's bright, right? So something like that library was back in the day when I was definitely taking fewer drugs. I'm kidding. But I was definitely programming on a different level than I am now as far as to what I would do. Here's from OmniPulse 2. You know, 10 years of programming with a plugin, you get to do all sorts of, it's like things expand. So here we have a number of things changing, and it's changing more parameters. It's changing, if we look at the list, the filter, as well as sync, as well as the effects. So it's got a lot of different things going on. So if we wanted to invert this, we go like that, invert, go to here, bring it, you just kind of, you can't, it'd be really hard to be exact with this because you could. I'm sure there's some people that would do that, but now it's bright. And the mod wheel down, or all the way up, is... One thing I would love for the next update to Omnisphere is that when you move parameters, the sound immediately changes. Here I can change these like crazy. It hasn't updated until I move the mod wheel. Now it's quite different. If I go, oh, that's too far, and I change these, I'm not hearing the change. And if you're working with Spire or Serum or a lot of the other synthesizers, they do real-time change when you change intensities. Here, after you change any amount, unless it's like an LFO to an effect, if it's an LFO, it's being updated all the time. But if it's the mod wheel, you have to move the mod wheel to update it. Okay. Love this library. Omnipulse 2 is just such a fun library. And it was so fun to make it as multi. Oh, I don't have them here to show. Never mind. But I made them as multis, stacked a whole bunch of different patches that work together, and then saved them out as these single patches. So all these single patches, they came from first having it be part of a big complex multi. So it was a very different way. I would do different things with the arpeggiator than if you're just making a patch by itself and you want it to be busy and you don't want it to always fill holes and stuff. So here it's not even a full one major, so it's updating at a different point in the repeat cycle every time. So if you were looking at this, we would go here, look at the source. Sometimes this list will get so big that you want to go to the second page. There's two pages. So here's a nice comparison. Here is Repro. 2 modulation sources. Omnisphere. 2 pages of 16 modulation sources. So you can get a whole lot more crazy vegetables in your salad than you can with Repro. So I hope that's someplace that they look at adding more capabilities in the future. Right? Oh, jumpers. That was the name. Yes. Don't zoom in like that. I thought my cat was pushing down the screen. Oh, Bernie, good to see you. I don't know if you guys know, Bernie went out with his dog at night to take his dog out for a quick little walk, and a motorcycle ran into the back of him. Damaged his head, blood in the brain, just all sorts of crazy stuff. So he's at home resting. So send your wishes to Bernie. I'm glad that he is okay, because that is a serious, serious accident to have that type of damage done to you. I'm glad that it is. I Skyped with him earlier this week. He's involved in something kind of fun we're working with. And I'm so happy that he's okay. That's just crazy. Crazy that that's type of stuff. He's like, yeah, I'm walking my dog, and the next thing I wake up, I'm in an emergency room at a hospital. I mean, it's like, that is crazy. So, you know, thank God he's healthy in here. So that was the question as to reversing parameters. When you're looking at all the different patches on this page, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things. So to have that kind of control over the sound, you can't do that with just 2 parameters. So again, hopefully somebody from Yuhi will watch this and go, oh yeah, we should. Okay. The last question that a customer gave me, and if you guys have questions, pop them up. And if you say @PluginGuru so it highlights it, that helps me see it, was how do I sample? Someone has actually sampled a synthesizer, and they want to make their own little library of samples. And how would you do that? What would be the process of doing that? So let's do that. Let's go over to the presets to like some sort of a cool lead. That's kind of cool. Let's get... Okay, so we want to sample this. The first thing you got to do is what I do in my sequencer is I'll sequence it. So and you hold the note as long as you think you're going to need, unless you're going to loop it. Let it fade out to 0. And then I want to have like some cool hits on above that. So I'm going to go. Okay. So I have this. Let's pop up the Logic screen. Oh, good. Nomar's here. He's the one that asked the question. Awesome. Yay. Let's zoom out so we have everything here going. Glad you're here, Nomar. That's great. So we've now recorded, as you can see, my sequence. So I can play this back. Right? Nice and boring. Long notes. Now, at this point, you just need to get it to be audio, and there's all sorts of ways to do that. You can, with this, I can just hit bounce, and I've got a limiter on here. If you wanted to add additional things to sweeten the sound, to optimize the sound, you could put a compressor on it, EQ it if you wanted to get something special out of it, or just record it this way flat. Check your levels. Because I have the limiter on, it's nice and strong. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. Okay. I'm going to set up my cycle so that it starts at 1 and it goes to here. When you go to bounce, you can actually set this to be like a tick or two before. Oh, you can't anymore. You used to be able to go ahead of time, but I guess they don't do that anymore. In the older, I've just upgraded to the version of Logic, so we're at 24-bit 48. That's correct. Offline. So my audio is going to go away for a second. Normalize I have off. You could say overload protection, or you could normalize if you wanted to bring up the levels automatically. I don't do that myself. But I'm just going to be quiet and... Oh, this is Repro Syn Brass Lead. Wasn't that exciting? So we now have, where did it record it to? It probably recorded it to the desktop. I have a folder here. Oh, I don't see it. So let's do this. Let's go find Repro. What did I call it? Syn Brass Lead, right? Well, bounce. Oh, let's do it this way. I can hit bounce, say. Oh, Guru Mass. There it is. Okay, so it's over here on this hard drive. Yep, here it is. So I'm going to double click this, which will open it up inside of DSP Quattro. Takes it a minute to load up everything. Skip for now, please. Yeah, no, if you go bounce and you can go see your preferences of where you're going to put it. DSP Quattro, these guys are awesome. I want to plug them because they are so awesome. They actually got one of my guys a free copy of Repro 5 for the work they're doing. So I think it's really awesome of them to support sound developers like that. So I'm going to just select this, and I'm going to go up here to File and say New Audio from Selection. And we'll call this Brass Lead 1. This is C3. It's good to put the pitch at the end of the name. In fact, we don't even need the 1 because we have the C3. Okay. Can you guys hear that? Let me know if you hear. Let me know if you hear DSP Quattro, because I was trying to set up my settings to make sure it would work. New. Oh, okay. So you don't hear it. Okay. C3. Then I won't play it. I won't be like, listen to that great sound quality, right? Okay. So there's G3, and then here's C3, and I'm gonna clean these up in a second. I'm just doing them really fast. So C3, G3, and then this will be C4. And here's blip 1. So we say new blip 1, just for fun. And then blip 2. New. Oh, wait. Blip 2. Okay. So I now have taken this one sound file and I've turned it into 5 different samples, 5 different audio files. And I'm going to look at these really quickly in DSP Quattro to clean them up before I get them into any sampler. And I wanted to do this as a separate process so I could talk about this. Command G will normalize so that it will look through the entire audio file, find the absolute loudest piece, and then bring that to 0 dB. So there's no distortion. I'm going to click and drag in the beginning, and then if you hold down Command and the plus key, it will zoom in to just that area. And then you can zoom in even more if you want by zooming in some like that. Because I want to get this so that it's absolutely at the very beginning of this, and then delete. So it immediately starts to play with no silence at the beginning. If you don't do this, when you get, it doesn't look like it. This looks great, right? But you see this? That is silence. There is no sound there. And when you play it up at like G4, it's fine. When you play it at C2 or C1, it's slowing it down 3 times slower than what this is, and it becomes noticeable delay. So go through this. In a case like this, I might even like get rid of this little DC part. Get rid of that. And then take this part and then go Command F to fade in. And it'll put a little fade on it so that I make sure that I got it nice and clean. Here we go. Hit Command plus. Zoom in, hit Command plus again. So you can get it. You can actually get it if I wanted to like get it to be even finer, go like this and hit Command plus. I could have it be full screen, Command plus, and now I can see it as like absolute, knowing exactly where. If you go up here under options, turn on auto 0, see how it's automatically finding where the 0 cross point is. That's very handy. It will go through and look to make sure that you're playing it so that you don't get any click. Okay. So this is the basics of sample editing, is to clean up and prepare your files before you do anything with them. Okay. Command plus, and we can see it really nicely. This is the waveform of that sound. And if you hit Command minus, it will zoom out so you can see it as you're zooming out till it's full length, right? I'm not worrying about the ends. I mean, I could get rid of like this piece of it if I wanted to, but it's not that big of an issue. It's the attack for playability's sake that's the most important thing. The only time you really start to worry about the end of the sounds is if there's a lot of silence, or else if you have memory limits. If you're trying to get this to fit in a certain amount of memory, then you want to get in there and look at when it sounds, stops, and all that kind of stuff. But by doing this, let's get rid of this. Don't always do that, though. A lot of times you want that very, very first cycle's character, but I'm just for quick sake, and I think I fixed the blips, right? So the blips are good. Yes, we got the 3 samples and blip. Like it stops right here. So if I want to, oh wait, I didn't want to do that. I could go right here. A couple other things, since we're talking about how cool DSP Quattro is and how nice they are as a company, a couple things that are really cool with this specific plugin is that it has a batch mode. So you can open this up, drag a whole lot of files into this. You can automatically normalize everything. You can edit and set what you want it to be normalized to. You can even get into doing such things as effects. And this is where it gets really fun. It has this ability with this audio VST plugin chain. It can have 4 different audio or VST effects from your system. You could go to Orm Force and add Fromage, and it will put this onto, oh, that's nice. Don't use Fromage because its interface is maybe on the audio VST. But you can, yeah, that's really nice. So you can use effects and then batch process that to a whole bunch of samples if you want. Or just apply it to a certain part of enough. If you wanted to do like a little phaser in a song, you can actually do it here in this process. It's pretty cool. You just hit apply and boom, it now's put it to the, you can't hear it, but it changed it quite considerably. All right, but we're not going to do that now. But that the power, it even has, they had, yeah, you can even open up audio instruments and then play a line and turn it into audio from within DSP Quattro. So it's a cool program, very reasonably priced, and that's what I use for all my sample editing for all my libraries, pretty much. I've used other things at times for specialties, but that's the one I go to start with. So let's go over here. Let's say audio. Oh, we don't need audio because we're going to be putting these into instruments, right? So here we are. We have on this folder. Oh, you're not supposed to see that. That's what I was worried about. I didn't want to show stuff. That's the problem with working on things and having things going on. All right, so we put the samples on the desktop. How's that? I mean, it's not that big a secret. We're working on a really cool library, but yeah, that's the artwork for the library. Isn't that cool? Details coming. So we're going to go over here. Let's do this first in ESX24. Let's go stereo. When you call this up, it's just a sine wave. I know. Sorry, Jason. I'm horrible with secrets. If you hit edit, it will create a new instrument that is blank. And then you can go zone, load multiple samples. And we could go over here, we could load all these up and say add and done. And we could say auto map by reading the root key from the audio file. And so let's see. Did it get anything? It did not. I probably have, there's a place, I probably should have set up the audio files. But what we can do is just select all of them. We'll do this really fast and dirty. So we're going to bring it up here, bring it to here. So we're going to have C3 is first, which is right here. So let's drag that to C3. Then G3 is right here. So let's drag that to G3. And then C4, just drag that to C4. So I now have, right? Here's my 3 samples. And the question that was asked to me is now, how do you, what's the next steps in this? I mean, I didn't sample every note. So right over here is where you have range, key range. And you can actually click and drag to have it set the range. And when you're dealing with something like this where you have a sample above, you find a place in the middle where the two can meet. So you don't have one just bump up to the other one. That way. And then we have to go to the pitch and bring this up to G3. and then this needs to be set to C4. So you set the root key, and you hear that transition from here. That's because this sample is playing slower. You could try finding it, maybe if we bring it up a half a step, maybe the split is better. Much better. Oh wait, no, duh. It's still noticeable. So that's where the time gets spent. If you're trying to get things to be more accurate, the best solution is to actually re-record the sounds and have more samples. But I'm playing a Repro 5 sound, or Repro 1 monophonic sound, polyphonically. For the PC SoundForge, there's some good sample editors on the PC side. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with Resample. Yeah, Audacity is also just perfectly fine and great for Windows and PC. And then we could put these additional blips here, blip 2, and then get rid of that because that was just the full length. So let's have this be, actually let's just have this go to C5, and then D can be, and now it becomes like, if you, because these are phrases, let's see, blip 2. You can create all sorts of effects. Like that could be a really cool hit in a song. You have a groove going. Did I have a groove? I had one at Point Logic. But yeah, I got rid of it for. But that's kind of the basic. Now, if we're doing this in Kontakt 5, let's see if I can clean this up a little bit. Let's say don't save. And let me go over here. There's one that had a dash. Please let me rename. If we go to actually no, Kontakt 5 doesn't do this very easily either. This is where I really like KeyMap Pro because it would look at the sample name and map it very nicely. Let's see if we go to Kontakt 5. The concept is the same. Oh, it loaded, but it didn't open the window. Isn't that nice? Make that go away. We almost don't even need this, but yeah, then it does that. Okay, so we're going to go over here and we're going to go to File and say New Instrument. We don't have the spiffy interface, but this gives you access by hitting the tool wrench to all the tools that are in each of these different instruments. When you get to these fancy libraries and stuff, underneath them all, it's all the same parameters. There's nothing new they can create outside of what is inside of here tool-wise. They can make the tools look different, and there's ways to interact and do complex things. Go to the mapping editor, and here is C3. So just drag this, and if you drag, as you move up and down, you'll notice it does a cool thing. Here, it's that one sample across the whole keyboard. Here is my root key, which is really low. So let's set it to be, this is the C3 sample. So if we set to C3. In some cases, a single sample works almost nicer than trying to multi-sample because you don't get those splits between one sound and another. If I set this to be limited down to here, and then I go to G3, and this time instead of being up here, I'm going to drag down until I get to about the range that I want it to take up. Like about that much of the range. If you keep going all the way down, it becomes a single note. So you can set how much range you want it to be before you let go inside of Kontakt. And then you need to click here for the pitch. Oh, because of the way that I did that, it can't have a pitch down there. So now we're ready for C3 or C4. So C4, C3, G3, here's C4. And we go to C4 for our pitch. If we let up right there and we bring it up to here, that'll set to C4. And then you can click to the left or to the right. And that's how you can extend the window so that everything works. And if you set it to where you have select zones via MIDI, it will change. You have tuning. If something's out of tune, you can tune it. You can actually do fairly radical tuning if you wanted to. Set this at 0 and click here. You can have it by octaves or, say minus 24.0, and it'll let you do all sorts of crazy things like that. So here now, so this is out of tune. Can you hear that? So let's go over here to tune. Okay, now at this point in the process, you could add additional effects. This is actually where filters show up. So if you want a low pass filter, say state pass, low pass filter 4 just means it's a 4-pole, so it's 24 dB, 2 is a 12 dB, 1 is a 6 dB filter, so this would be a softer. Get rid of that, make it a 24. If you want to add an envelope, then you would go up here to modulation sources and say add a modulation source. You could say add either a flexible envelope or just an ADSR. And the way that Kontakt does this is there's this little checker box. By hitting this, it's saying go down below to the modulation list. And down in this modulation list, it's kind of confusing, is where all the LFOs, all the modulations, everything resides here. The little X doesn't make it go away, it closes it. It's like an accordion. So you can close all these things that you don't want to see. If you want to see the envelopes, and then you can see right here it says cut off or volume. So this is cut off. Okay? And you're programming. So you can actually do complete programming of sounds inside of just Kontakt 5 without needing it to be a spiffy skin. If you get into the spiffy skin, I have all these libraries that if we wanted to, we could load this map. I could go to this map, mapping editor, boom, 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 right click and say copy these zones. And then I could actually get rid of this instrument and say don't save, no. And let's say we load up something like bells and winds. And let's load up a sad. If I go over here to the mapping editor and I get rid of this, oh wait, don't do that. Of course, it's going to call back the wrong thing. Bells and winds. Oh wait, I was here. Yeah, it got rid of it. But if we go over here, let's load back bells and winds, flute, sad. That's where I was. Hit this, hit the mapping editor, click this, and then hit delete. And then go command and right click and say paste zones. I've pasted my Repro brass into an interface, and I believe they are all, let's see, are they assigned to the group yet? Yes, there's only one group, so they're assigned. So now I can program using this. I can get my glitch, turn on glitch. Have some delays. I could put a pitch EG on everything, so it's. And this is the case with every one of the libraries that I've created, except for Del Norte is more complex. I haven't actually looked at that because it's 2 oscillators and there's a lot more stuff going on to make up these sounds because of the way it works with there being a layer A and a layer B. I'm not sure if I could go in and replace those, and I don't want to try to do that without trying it first in the safety of your own home. But that's how it works. You have the mapping editor. Here, you see, it's a much more complex because we have, instead of one map, all of these maps get loaded with Del Norte. It's a huge process. That way you have access to, close. You have access to all of these multi-samples of virus patches that are really awesome. And you have access to all of these attack components to layer to make really cool dance sounds. So it's much more complex than just, you'd have to delete all the groups. All of these groups would have to go away. You could, I'm sure it would work, but I'm not going to do it right now in person. So, any questions? We have about 6 minutes left of the scheduled time I was planning to spend today. I'm going to have a little snack moment. If you have a question, please pop it up. I'm going to be at the NAMM show. I should announce. Thursday through Sunday at different points. Hey, Nomar, my pleasure. Did that make sense? Oh, Sonny, you had a question earlier. Okay, look up here. Let's see here. You guys have been very busy talking. Sonny, can you ask me your question one more time? Because I'm going up the list. And I do not see it. There's a new beta of Zebra released for Christmas. Yes. Yes. It's very nice. I've seen that. Sonny, let me see where your question was. I zoomed up once and missed it. You talk about cool edit. You'd love to sample your American flutes. That'd be very cool to hear. Yeah, flutes record really well. It's really fun to record instruments like that. Yeah, I don't see your question, Sonny. Ask one more time, buddy. Any other questions? Oh, yeah, if you, I don't know, I didn't know that was a question. Yes, if you want to record your Native American flutes, you can definitely do that. Have you ever played around? Yes, Avenger. Jason's asking about Avenger. Yes, I have. I don't recall if I have it installed in this computer yet. I have not installed it on this computer. This is a new computer, so it's been like over a week to get everything installed and get everything. And oh, want me to come to Portland? Send me a message. We can talk about stuff because I have a very good friend of mine and photographer that lives outside of Pismo Beach area. And I want to go down there. He's got a large collection of Native American flutes as well. And it'd be fun to do a new library of flutes later this year. Save changes. Yeah, bells and winds. These flutes came out great, but these are single samples. So you know, you don't have the realistic range if we had more samples. But I was very happy with how these turned out. Everything in Bells and Winds was done in like a 40-minute, just one take recording session I did at the end of Mega Magic Guitar's recording studio session. So, is your recording session? Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't sound realistic for this. But this is Mega Magic, and Mega Magic is all about the processing and this kind of stuff. And for this, it was what was intended, and it's awesome. Or to do the opposite and use I love the glitch. You do such great. Stuff like that. All right. The better the source, the better the library. Yes, Mega Magic is Mega Magic. These were recorded very well. It's just I wasn't trying to create a real flute. It was not my goal. My goal was new sounds. So for this, it was really cool. We'll be roaming around the NAMM show. Yes, I will be there. If you want to contact me and let me know, I'll send you my cell phone number so that you can send me a message when you're on the floor so I can find you somewhere and say hi. Be really fun. This is year number 28 for the NAMM show. I've been part of the NAMM show. There's a couple years when Hannah was first born in the 2000s that I didn't go, but otherwise I've been every year. Not really a question related to the stream, but was just wondering, which software would you recommend for mastering finished tracks? Good question. That can be a live stream in and of itself, don't you think? A lot of people love Ozone from Isotope. I have that installed at this point. Where is Isotope Ozone? I have 7. I think they have a newer version than that now. Oh, I can't show that at this moment because I hadn't authorized it yet. Oh, well, here it is. Interface-wise, what's nice with this is you have the ability to install all sorts of modules that will do different things. Oh, they give you access now. I haven't used Ozone 7. I was an Ozone 5 user, and I just upgraded at the end of the year. But you can put these, there's presets that are really nice. So you can click here to go into all-purpose, general-purpose mastering. And it will load up a series of effect processors that have parameters set up for doing nice things to the mix. There's also things you should do to your audio before you even get to this stage. As far as just what should your audio look like, what sort of levels should you have? You shouldn't have it like maxed out. See how my meter is like at the max like this? That's not typically how you want it to be if you're going to try to master it. Unless a lot of times I do mastering right here. And in a lot of cases, for me, my mastering chain is a combination of the precision EQ, and I use the precision limiter, or I can use Fab Filters. This is a very nice limiter for mastering as well, to pop it up just a little bit in the gain headroom. You have parameters you can set it up to if you wanted to. I just do that a lot of times for my mixes. Instead of like trying to I'm not trying to compete with radio mixes for the most part when I do these. So that works for me. But you can use standalone applications. You can use a compressor, a limiter, and a maximizer in the output chain of your song. The risk with that is that if you're trying to do an album, each song's going to kind of get mastered in its own way, and they might not like gel as an album the same way as if you just set up the mix mastering that you want, the color that you want. It's like if you're watching a film and the different scenes were colored differently, you know, different feel to it. Right? Whereas usually they have the cinematographer and the people in the film that make it a cohesive color. That's where like a Ozone or something like that, carefully sculpt it and set the color that you want and then have your whole album sound like that. Yes, Ozone 8, if you use tonal balance in combination with a reference track, Ozone 8 does an absolute killer job. That's the other tip, and we'll do a whole live stream. I don't want to give away all the tips on what you can do for mastering, but we'll cover that. That'll be a fun one to do. That's a tricky one because we'll do that. I'm just not going to talk about it now because it'd be really easy for me to talk about and then I don't have anything to talk about. All right, any other questions? Okay, how do you get the cursor with highlight? The cursor with highlight. Oh, you know what? I think that is part of the Livestream producer software. I pay a licensing fee. I use a Livestream producer application and Livestream software, and it has the little highlight that follows the mouse around. So that would be how I do that. It's not a Mac thing, although I think you could probably do that. But any other questions? I didn't know this. Yes, there's EQ you can do. Sunny's saying, I find flutes have a lot of mid-range, so you can EQ in careful ways before you record it. And just, you know, record it and play it across the keyboard to see how it works. Sometimes that mid-range, as it goes up and down the keyboard, is really nice and lovely. So, yeah, any other questions? We're about to wrap up. Oh, you're welcome, Silver. My pleasure. He said, thank you for the live stream. Always educational and useful. That's the idea. And if you really appreciate the live stream, please go to, I can push the button, pluginguru.com. Support the teacher, buy a library. I would sincerely thank you for that. There's lots of products for lots of plugins. Work very hard to find inspiring sounds that are new to feed into your synthesizers that you love to use to write music. So thank you. Yes, please pick up some libraries. Good thing. Shout out. Let's do our local shout out. Where's everybody at? Oh, yeah. Rocky Mountain Sounds. Northern Lights is great. Greetings from Portland. Well, there's a library coming for Repro I'm working on that will come out probably before the NAMM show. The next library after that, I can't tell you anything about. Not yet. Except it's for Omnisphere, and it is unexpected. Although you guys will be really happy. It's been something that's been requested. Yeah. In Europe, it's evening time. So this is like your evening show. That's really fun. Hello from not freezing cold Cal. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it's not freezing cold. It's been so cold up there. Jason's written a couple messages to me that's like, it's so cold I got in my car and it feels like liquid nitrogen on my face. So I'm glad to hear it's not the case at this particular moment up there. That's great. Bye to everybody. Oh, Bernie, good to hear from you from Holland. Yay. Germany, Rimrock, Arizona, Washington, Denmark, more Germany. I'm planning to come to Messe. I believe it's in March. I'm hoping to come to Mesa to see everybody. I want to see Europeans meet you guys, have a beer. So put it on the list. Bavaria. Great, Harold. Oh, great. Good to see you from George and Leicester, UK. Ah, awesome. In the UK. That's great. LA, peace. Right on, Riddle. Good times. So we will do a live stream next Saturday. There won't be a live stream the following Saturday because I will be in Los Angeles. Will you make a library from a Yamaha DX1 in the future? Doubtful. Maybe for the Arturia DX synthesizer plugin. I've had a lot of people requesting that. And it's a fun synthesizer to program. There's the funny thing with the velocity that is, once you change that, if you go Arturia, this is a lovely plugin. They did a very nice job on this. The interface and everything is fun. Just make sure, go down here and change it to be full range. So you can get the full DX velocity range. Okay, because if you don't do that, it's like a kind of like sick DX7. It's great for ballads. It gets a little into the bite, but not enough. I mean, you need, gotta have that. But this interface is great. There's effects. There's a lot of capabilities. So this I would look at making a library for. Recording, I don't have a DX1. I don't know anybody in Portland that has a DX1. So recording one for some nice dark techno chord stabs for the Repro 5 library. Yes. Dark stabs. We will have them. Maybe a Prophet 12. Yes. That's definitely a possibility. Good. Good to see you all. Take care. Be well. Any tips on putting MIDI and sidechain setups? That would be maybe something for like a mastering and effect on mid and sidechain setups. You know, I don't do a lot of engineering, so I could probably fumble through something like that. Harold, you're going to be really happy. Smiley face. Yes. Cornell, yeah, I did get a new Mac Pro. It is an old Mac Pro, but it's 12 core, 48 gigabytes of RAM. It's got the AMD Radeon 7950, so it's a nice, fast graphic video processing capable, but 2010 computer, because the current computers are not very not very good for professional musicians to work with. You can't expand things. If you're doing video, they're maybe more sufficient, but not for musicians. All right. Be well. I'll see you guys next week. We'll come up with something fun. All right. Take care. Bye.